Okay.
I think we've got it. All right, you can hear me, great. Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday night, and it was a great, beautiful day, wasn't it? I got to sit here in my little room and look out the windows while I was working. It was really nice to see the birds and everything, and pop outside just for a minute or two. Really enjoyed that. So welcome to the March Robert Lunz Group Sierra Club meeting. And just a little bit about us. We represent Berkeley, Charleston, Colleton, and Dorchester counties in South Carolina, and we have over 1,400 members. And our mission is to explore, enjoy, and protect the wild places of the earth. Here's just a little bit about our leadership. My name is Christine Von Collins. I don't know if I said that. And I'm the chair of the group. And you were Laura Moses, our publicity chair, was just talking a few minutes ago. I think I saw a few other of the leadership on there: Yvonne, Pat, Star, Nina, Julia may be in the house. I'm not sure, I didn't see. All right, we want to talk about some grassroots action. So this is something you can do to try to help save the forest on Sullivan's Island. Over the years, land has accreted on the island. So they've got a great amount of land that is now in front of houses. And so some of the people who live there want to cut down the forest that has grown up in front of their houses between station 16 and 28 and a half. And if you've ever been out there, you know what a beautiful wild landscape this is. The picture down here shows a little rabbit. I took that picture, I think on station 25 last year. And there's, all sorts of birds and frogs and turtles and you name it. And the trees and the bushes and all that is in danger. So please go to Stop the Chop, Save Our SI Forest, and sign and share the petition to help try to stop this landscape from really being destroyed. So Star, do you want to unmute yourself and talk about some outings?
So the Sierra Club National Organization has canceled all outings through July due to the COVID-19 thing. And so I was asked to come up with a few sort of self-directed trips for you to consider. And you see on the map at the left, the Swamp Fox section of the Palmetto Trail. This is a quite lovely little 6-mile hike from Highway 17 on the right P is, over to the little campground thing on Halfway Creek Road. It's a remarkably diverse little thing, hike. You go through a little bit of lowland swales and ridges of a sort, and through some lovely forests of longleaf pine, and wind up at Halfway Creek Trail. Great 6-mile hike. You'll have to figure out your own car pooling or car shuttles and so forth. On the right, one of the really other great places is at the other end of Highway 17 down toward Savannah, and this is the Donnelly Wildlife Management Area. It's now open for you to go to take the Boynton Trail, which is shown right there sort of in the middle. If you just go down there and drive the road down and don't even get out of your car, it's a beautiful place to go visit. It's one of the treasures of our state, and it was designed as, or it was preserved as a hunting area, so it's not available in the falls, but it's open now. And do you have another page for me?
Yeah, I was going to say on the Donnelly, we went this past weekend and saw 73 alligators because it was so warm. Pretty nice.
Somewhere out there in YouTube land is a picture of the alligators making noises, mating calls. It's pretty spectacular if you want to look at that. The other thing, going back north again, the Santee Coastal Reserve is always up there and always wonderful. It's a tribute to whiskey and duck hunters and hundreds, if not thousands, of people who created the landscape in the 19th century, in the 18th and 19th century. Nowadays, it's a hunting reserve, so it's only open. It's not open from November through February 9th or so. In the last 2 or 3 years, they've created these. You can see the blue trail and the purple trail and the red and the orange and the yellow trails. This is a significant birding place to go look for red-cockaded woodpeckers. You can see lots of alligators. We were there a week and a half ago or so, and we saw, I think, 5 or so bald eagles, some mature, some immature. And it's a place that's South Carolina's heritage, and it is a wonderful place to visit, mostly in the cooler months of the year. It's also a great place for mosquitoes. If you wait till the summertime, you're going to be dodging lots of mosquitoes. So right now is an excellent time to go. And all of those trails can probably be ridden by bicycle if you wanted to do a bicycle and not go on a walk.
Lots of singing frogs too. Beautiful out there. So thank you, Star. Sorry I didn't get the pictures put in here. Next time.
Okay.
So volunteers, I know yesterday, or was it, yeah, yesterday, they had a SCORE volunteer day, and they had some hardy volunteers go out in the cold and volunteer to clean up the oyster shell. So every Wednesday, they're going to be doing this volunteer effort to get the oysters ready to be used again along our whole coast to make new oyster beds. So if you can get out there, space is limited because of COVID. They're limiting the number of people that go, but you need to RSVP. Email score@dnr.sc.gov and let them know you'd like to volunteer, and they'll set you up with a day and time to get out there. All right, so next month, I want to go ahead and let you know, April 1st, Christina Ray Butler, author of Low Country at High Tide, with us, and she's going to be talking about her book that chronicles the means and motives of filling and reclamation in the city over time, and how the city government and its residents have dealt with flooding in the past and the present. This, of course, is a very timely topic. We're all, dealing with a lot of rain this past February. There was a lot of flooding, and especially a lot of river flooding that happened this past February. So we're really looking forward to having Christina next month.
May I ask you a question?
Okay.
What was the name of the place that Star was talking about to go? I couldn't read it on the screen and I didn't hear.
Santee Coastal Reserve.
Oh, okay. I know that place. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Tonight, we are lucky to have Mike Sadler. He's going to tell us about his long-distance kayak journey from North Carolina to Charleston. And we met him the other day to do a little practice run, and it just sounds like we're all excited to hear this. It was great just to talk to him for a few minutes. So he was born and raised in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. His father was an outdoorsman and taught the children how to camp, hunt, and fish. Later in life, Mike started spending more and more time on the water, inshore and offshore, and worked his way into the maritime industry. He earned his captain's license in 2018, and he was working as a fishing guide in Alaska. His older brother, Matt, introduced Mike to the world of kayak fishing a number of years ago, and he's been hooked ever since. He started fishing on the IFA, NCKFA tournament series and became more comfortable spending long hours on a kayak. This trip was Mike's first long distance journey on a kayak and came about pretty spontaneously, mainly out of boredom and longing for adventure. He started planning and putting together some of the essential pieces. Overall, the trip was successful and he learned a lot of valuable lessons. So I am going to stop sharing and get Mike in here.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine. Can everyone hear me? Well, thank you all so much for having me tonight. Christine did a pretty good summary of my background, a little bit more about myself. Like Christine said, I'm an outdoorsman, I'm a world traveler, I'm also now an amateur adventurer and dabbling in producing video for YouTube. By trade, I'm a fishing guide. I also work in the maritime industry with my captain's license, and I'm a professional poker dealer. So I've traveled a long ways dealing different poker tournaments all over the world. So to start my presentation, I figured I will go over my rig and the boat and all of the gear and equipment that I used for the trip. And then I'll also show you the route that I took down the intercoastal. So here is the first photo of, let's see here. I guess that's as big as it's going to get right now. Here we go. Okay, so this is a Hobie Outback 2019. It's actually a fishing kayak, but all of the Hobie kayaks come with a sail mount and is universal for any of their models. It's actually a really cool sail kit. It's about a $450 sail, and it's 8 foot and optimal in 10 to 15 mile per hour winds. Anything above that, since you don't have a centerboard, gets kind of dangerous. Also, essential for the sail are these outriggers here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but the pontoons on the outside of the boat are crucial for the stability while operating under sail. Because the boat doesn't have a centerboard, pretty much you're stuck with the rudder, and there's a mirage drive, which are the fins that fit down into the hull of the boat that you use to pedal with. And I'll show you a different picture of the gear. We'll do, let's see. Sorry guys, I'm kind of new to this. This is just a different angle. You can see everything's packed out. So with the trip, the necessary equipment were the dry bags. I had 2 40-liter dry bags and multiple 10-liter dry bags. Also, you can see the wheels attached to the back of the boat for whenever I was off the water. All Hobies fit into the same wheel kit, and you can maneuver the boat around without having to drag it over concrete or boat ramps, things like that. Other gear that I packed out besides food and water, essentially everything that you would take on a backpacking trip is what I use to bring with me. So tent, ground pad, sleeping bag, one single burner with a pot to boil water and cook food with, things like that. Safety equipment for something like this, I had basically anything you take on a normal kayaking trip: whistle, foghorn, your PFD. I had a signaling mirror. I also had an emergency radio that I could contact other boats if necessary, or the Coast Guard if I got into trouble and needed them to come and be surprised that they found me kayaking down the intercoastal. What else did I bring? Running lights were very important at night. I had a headlamp, a solar light. I also had a solar charging system to charge all my equipment with. So cell phone, GoPro, and other external charging battery stations that basically I could not do the trip without the solar charger because I needed to keep contact with my safety team the whole way. The route I took, I'm actually in Emerald Isle right now, which is just east of Swansboro. But the first waypoint at the top here near Morehead City is Swansboro. It's Hammock Beach State Park. And that's where I put in at, and then journeyed all the way down the intercoastal through Southport and down into, I wanted to get into Charleston Harbor. I ended up cutting the trip a little short and pulling out at Sullivan's Island. It's about 240 miles total. And next, I have video of the entire trip. So I'm going to start you guys with the first video. And if anyone has any questions afterwards, we can go over what we saw. All right, this is the first leg of the trip from Swansboro past Southport to Holden Beach, North Carolina.
We're launching from Hammocks Beach State Park in Swansboro, North Carolina, and going to attempt to go all the way down the intercoastal to Charleston, South Carolina.
Does the sound good on that, Laura?
Like, done about 10 nautical miles. Well, terrible. Miles. As you can see, the current is ripping. The wrong direction. I need to go that way. The current is coming out of the New River. Got stopped by some guys on the intercoastal. They gave me a beer. So
Better.
this is camp for tonight, and they gave me dinner. Pretty sick. Did it last night. We're starting day 2. It's Ernie's house. We're gonna see how far we can go today. Averaging probably 3 3.5 knots. It could be a good day. Wind keeps up. Perfect right now. Holy shit. Should be interesting. Man, that was my first encounter with big mega yachts. Man, that's some serious wake. There's a lot of traffic through here. We're right outside Surf City. We're making really good way. Close to 10 miles already today. I just spooked something huge, like as big as the boat almost. I don't know what it was, but it's back in this oyster bed. I went through the middle. It wasn't just a fish. Manatee maybe, but it seemed like it moved too fast. Oh, that could have capsized it. Holy shit. That was scary. I don't want to do it. I think I can get down this inlet and there's a beach. I should be able to set my tent up on and sleep relatively comfortably. It's a nice little beach to camp on. It's only 7, even though it looks really late. We got some neighbors over here. It's actually nice to hear people's voices. For dinner, we're doing broccoli and onions that I brought with me. Water over there. Broccoli, onion, jalapeno, cup of noodles, water. Be good. Start day 3. See how the sail does in high winds. Should be exciting. Check in later. You ask yourself why you do these things. Mornings like this. It's just beautiful. It doesn't get much better. I've been fighting the current for the past hour on this channel to get across to the Cape Fear River. Big open water here. This is the Cape Fear. Shipping lane. Ships that those things are made for. We got a big tug and barge working in the middle of the channel. I just want to get far away from there as possible. Southport. And now we're going to eat. Drink a cold beer.
Not the worst, but not the best. We got 16 miles to Claudia's place, but we got a good tailwind, so hopefully it shouldn't take too long. I'll be there by lunchtime or something. Oh, tired. But not too much further.
Okay, so that was the first video. Let's see, I guess people are having trouble with the sound.
Little bit.
Too bad, I'm not sure.
So my buddy, Brad, over on the YouTube channel as Crow Flies
What
Hiking.
is that? Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Let's see. I don't know what happened with the sound.
I think we heard most of it. You want to answer some questions?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, just put them in the chat. That trip was from Swansboro to Holden Beach, and really the biggest obstacles were boat traffic was a problem and dealing with big wake. But in most parts of the intercoastal, it's wide enough that you can get over to the side. If you really have to be looking behind you constantly, because those boats can kind of sneak up on you even though they're big. And here's a question here. Let's see. Okay, I'll answer Bridget's first. The Hobie kayak was the best available boat I could get my hands on. And I also chose it because I already had the sail kit, and it also has the Mirage drive. If you could see in the video, anytime I'm pedaling, that's using the Mirage drive, and you can cover longer distances with that as opposed to paddling with a normal paddle. So those were the main reasons, and they're super stable boats. The alternative would be to use a long distance like ocean kayak that are very streamlined, but I wouldn't want to use one of those in the intercoastal because of stability.
So Mike, I'll help you with the questions.
Mm-hmm.
David McLean wants to know, when did you make the trip? What months?
This was 10 days in November of 2020. So first couple weeks.
Okay. And Star wanted to know, what was the umbrella sail?
That was my number 2 sail. That was a spinnaker.
Okay. So you actually had 2 sails.
Just the umbrella was just to gather any kind of other wind I could get.
Oh, okay.
The umbrella works with any kayak. If you've never tried that, just sit back, hold the umbrella up and cruise. Don't paddle, don't pedal. That an umbrella will take you far with a regular kayak. That's from the Lazy Kayak.
She is very right. That is true.
If you have the wind, right?
Yeah, with a good tailwind. And it also was nice when it started raining. In the next video, I paddled through Tropical Storm Eta, and the umbrella came in handy.
So someone asked, why did you continue to travel in the dark? Did you have a time limit? And they said it seemed like it would be dangerous. I did feel sort of like, I was feeling anxious for you when I saw that you were traveling in the dark.
So it's not something I planned on doing. it's something that kind of happened. I knew the first couple of days I really wanted to cover enough miles to make the trip possible. And as I started getting into the night, I realized there's less boat traffic at night. So with the lights that I had with me, I had a running light and my headlamp. I could paint the sail with my light and be very visible for any boats that were on the water. But for the most part, at night, I didn't see other boats operating.
So
I did not have a time limit. Sometimes I did. I followed the conditions. So if the wind and the tide were good, I wouldn't stop. I'd keep going.
okay. So do you want to go ahead and do the next video and then we'll get to more questions later?
Yeah, that'd be great. Hopefully the sound will be a little better. So should I mute myself when I start the video?
I don't think so, because I think there's something going on with your computer where you need to be unmuted for that, for us to hear the sound.
Okay, here we go. All right, I'll bring up the next one. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, here's part 2. And this is from Holden Beach all the way to, where did I get in this one? South Myrtle Beach, and I got stopped by Tropical Storm Eta.
We're 16 miles, Claudius. Strong tailwind. Should be there by lunchtime. Very nice on the intercoastal. She's an old high school buddy. And we're just doing an unpack. It's gonna be a wet day, but it's time to move on down the road. So I'll check back in with you guys later. Peace. Yeah, we're gonna have a long day. Probably night too. Here comes the rain. And looks like this one's gonna last. Up here at crab catchers off the Intercoastal. Take a little break. Got a good meal. Blue crab bites, lightly fried shrimp, beer, nice people. It's proven to be a good stop so far. Thank you all for being so friendly and talking with me. Thank you, Kat. The food was great. The company was even better. Y'all have a good night, okay? Cheers. We're gonna stop at Captain Archie's because we've been fighting the current for 3 hours. Conditions are just really bad, and there's no use fighting the current. So the boat's tied up, and at least I'm dry for the most part. It's not fun right now, though. Camp last night, right at the bar. Tried to leave, but the current was so strong that I just turned around, came right back, and went to sleep. The current has not flipped, which is a bad sign. So I think I'm just gonna have to get on the water and fight it. Yeah. I mean, you could ride the wave. Brutal day, wet, cold, but this is a nice reprieve. We'll get to wait out the hurricane here. What's left of it.
Okay. Hopefully you all could hear that one.
That just looked brutal.
It was pretty brutal. Yeah, those last few days were not fun. I only averaged about 10 miles a day.
So there were a couple questions before we get to, you've got one more video, right?
Yeah, if we have time for it, it's about 10 minutes long or so.
Okay. We could do a couple questions right now. What was the most unexpected thing that you saw on your trip?
Ooh. That's a good question.
Tropical storm Etta.
Yeah, that was definitely not fun. In the first video, I spooked something next to the boat that I could not identify, but it was as big as the boat. I don't know if it was an alligator or a big shark, or I have no idea, but it was enough to capsize me. It displaced enough water. So that was pretty surprising.
Wow. Where did you sleep usually was a question.
Anywhere I could find dry land, which just the biggest issue with going into the night, that finding dry land became really difficult. But most of the inlets have nice beaches you could camp on. Anything that's green on your maps is national seashore. You can camp legally on it. Now, the boat ramps and other places, the bar that I slept at, I don't know if that was necessarily legal or not.
Well, I know that sand usually sloughs off water pretty quickly. Was that, so the sand was still okay to sleep in or put your tent on?
Yeah, you just wanted to make sure you were above the high tide mark.
Right. So Star wants to know, how did you keep batteries charged on cloudy days?
On those cloudy days, anytime I stopped for supplies, I would make sure to charge. And my solar charger would keep a good 2 charges or so. So I could get by stretching it out, just keep the phone turned off until I needed to check in with my support team at night.
Okay. We have one more question in there, but I'm going to hold that one till after the last video.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and start the
Right.
last one.
Okay.
Let's see. This one still needs some work, but I'm pretty happy with it.
It's day 7 on the water. It's sunset, and it's been slow going. I've been pedaling for 7.5 hours now. Help and make a pit stop here. Haven't had a break in 7.5 hours. Band's not playing until 7. I don't want to stick around. Tide's finally flipped. And we gonna ride it. All right. Some trail angels there. It's definitely gonna be one of the last bridges we see for a while. And then it's all darkness. Made it to Enterprise Landing. Got some good old boys fishing out here. Oh, maybe I can give you a hand with this one rig. There it is. Yeah, real. Still got my sinker. Just lost the We're here at Enterprise Landing with Mike and Matt. Some cat fishermen extraordinaires. I don't know if I go that far. getting on the water early, which is good. 7 a.m. Got a visit from the police officer that woke us up, which was probably a good thing. We got the wind coming out of the northeast, and we got a strong current pushing us down river. So hopefully it'll be a big day. I can get a lot of miles. Some intel from a local when we were on the Wakama, and he told us about this place right under the bridge, about a mile, and this is perfect. In the morning on Sunday, 5:30. And it's raining again. Pretty sweet little campsite here. That had I not stopped the other day, might have bypassed, but we got a tip from a local. And man, the shelter's nice. I'm glad I pulled the kayak up the beach because the tide has come up. Shout out to Les Stroud for that shot. We went on the wrong side of this island and probably cost an hour of time and 30 minutes of really hard pedaling.
Just a lovely noise. Tide is brutal. It's taking everything I got. And here's JP to pick me up. What's up, bro? Oh, man. Welcome to the world. How about it? Dude, how you feeling? I'm exhausted. Yeah, I bet. God.
Okay, hopefully you
I
guys.
think that was incredible.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. So love the little touches with the frog and that little bug that was hitchhiking on your craft, and then the squirrel that was you laugh out loud.
I was very not happy with that squirrel. That was my longest day. I put in 17 hours that day. And all I wanted to do was sleep.
Right. So we have some more questions from the audience. One person wants to know if the pedals work like a keel.
Yeah, actually it was my only thing I could use as a keel. And what I did with them, because when they're pushed out, the fins fold up underneath the kayak. So I wrapped a bungee around them to keep them in the upright position so they would stick straight down in the water. And that boat also has a small rudder, which helped a little bit for stability. But during high winds, you could see me, I was leaning as hard as I could on the opposite side of the wind to keep the boat under control.
Yeah, the high winds looked like you were kind of enjoying that.
Sailing in high winds, it made the time go by a lot faster because the alternative is averaging 1 knot. And when you're going 1 mile per hour or 1 knot, you really learn to appreciate how fast 4 knots feels or 5 knots.
Wow. So why did you go in November versus a warmer month with longer daylight hours?
Well, I didn't want to be paddling or sailing in hot temperatures. And looking at the reports and everything, that was a pretty good window where the coldest it would get at night was in like the 50s. So it actually turned out to be a good time of year to do it because of the weather those few weeks, besides the hurricane.
Right. So we got some questions about like your favorites. So what was your favorite place that you visited, or what were you, or maybe the top 2 or 3?
I think the prettiest stretch of the entire trip was the Waccamaw River. and going down through that area. Also going through the Tom Yawkey Nature Preserve was pretty cool because that was the one part of the trip I was actually kind of scared and ready to be around houses and lights again because it's dark. And other favorite place, Rich Inlet was beautiful to camp on up in North Carolina outside of Wilmington. And that Buck Hall Landing north of Bulls Bay is a really pretty campground where the squirrel woke me up.
What was the campground that had the campsite with the shelter?
That was actually, I believe it's Morgan Park. So that's not a real campground. A guy that I stopped at one place told me that I could camp there, and actually the whole park was flooded out. So that little shelter was on an island. So I was isolated. But that came in handy too, because it rained hard that night.
Wow. Wow. So what were the hardest and the easiest inlet crossings?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Leading up to the trip, I was most nervous about Southport and the Cape Fear River, and the Cape Fear Inlet there, just south of Wilmington in the city of Southport, is really big open water, and there's a lot of current and water trying to get out of there during a falling tide. So that was one of the biggest kind of obstacles to start the trip. And then Winya Bay is anything that's big open water is scary in a kayak, especially when you've been confined inside the intercoastal and then you get out into big open water, you feel very vulnerable. And you could see in that video how that morning started with rain, then sunshine, perfect conditions, glass on the water, to really rough seas, 2 to 3 foot seas, and then cloudy, overcast, and raining all in like a 4-hour window.
How many times have you done something like anything near that before? Is this just like you took off and this was the first time you did this sort of thing, or?
This was the first time I spent longer than a few days doing like a paddle down a river, and paddling with the tides, especially when you get into South Carolina, gets really difficult. But I felt confident on the water. I felt confident in my boat, so I knew I could do it. And I also knew at any point if I didn't feel safe or ran into trouble, I was within half a mile of civilization at all times, pretty much. And I had people who could come and get me if I needed to bail, and I had internet service the whole way down. So that kind of feels it's a safety net as well.
Even through Tom Yawkey? I thought there was some.
Not through that. No, not through that area. So
Okay.
that's why I felt a little more nervous through there, because I was really cut off from the rest of the world.
Did you still have the boat radio?
Yeah, I actually, yeah, I didn't think about that. The radio would probably have still worked.
Okay.
There was
Can you tell us about your support team? Were they only on the land, or were they also in the water with you?
Yes. So my number one support was my mother. She would not let me go without filling her in and checking in with them every night. We did have contingency plans. If I didn't check in for more than 24 hours, then to alert the authorities or Coast Guard. So that would give me enough time. If I lost batteries and all that stuff, I could still the next day get to a charging station, more than likely. The other support was my friend Johnny, who lives in Charleston on the Ashley River. And I probably would not have left and gone on this trip without him being down there. And then So I talked to them every day, sent them waypoints along the way. And then also, I had a couple other people who were willing to come and get me if something were to happen. Which I think, doing something like this isn't necessarily the safest thing you could do. So the more things that build your confidence going into something like that, and not just going, oh, I want to go on an adventure because it's going to be fun, actually making a list of all of the dangers and then how you're going to handle those and prepare yourself for them.
And you mentioned trail angels
Mm-hmm.
in the videos. Can you talk about them a little bit? They look like some of them were just fun.
Yeah, so I met a lot of people. I was the most popular boat on the Intercoastal. I shouldn't have been there, or I shouldn't say that, but no one usually sees a rig like that coming down the Intercoastal. So I turned a lot of heads, and the first night I actually left Swansboro. 2 guys flagged me down. They were laughing at me as I was paddling by, and I paddled over, and they offered me a place to stay, snacks, things like that. And then outside of Myrtle, some boaters pulled up next to me and they said, "Are you pedaling down the river?" I said, "Yeah, I am." It was at night. And they said, "You need a sandwich or something, or some water or beer?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." So you saw in the video, I held on to their gunnel and we just floated down the river for about an hour and talked. And they kept on wanting to tow me. Everybody wanted to give me a ride. And it started to get harder and harder to turn that down. So yeah, it was nice to see people. And then the only place to camp around Sakasti, outside of Myrtle, was that boat landing I found, because it's all swamp there. And when I pulled up, there's 2 locals fishing, and I helped them get their line out of the water. And then I hung out with them for a couple hours. I said, "Guys, I'm going to put my tent on this dock and go to sleep, but you guys hang out for as long as you want." So that was probably 2 a.m. And then a police officer woke me up that morning, asked me what I was doing. And after I explained it, he said this is the first time he'd ever seen anything like this. And that I was like, "Well, what am I doing anything illegal?" He was like, "No, not that I can tell. But just be careful. The local people won't appreciate what you're doing around here." But I never felt unsafe at any point. And then I met a person at Wikiwachi Marina or something, right on the middle of the Wakama. And he was familiar with the whole rest of the trip. So he texted me places to camp along the way. So those are, if you ever backpack or do anything like that, hiking wise, which I'm sure a lot of people do, trail angels are just the folks along the way that want to lend a helping hand.
Yeah, that just seems great to have all that extra support that you didn't even know you were going to have.
It is. And, it does actually show that people are inherently good, I think, and want to help and, appreciate that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Restores your faith. So, so David McLean wants to know, how did you navigate? Did you have charts, a GPS, or did you do dead reckoning using channel markers?
A little bit of everything. I did have a map and charts with me, but mostly, I'm sad to say, I used my cell phone and Google Maps. For the most part, David, the Intercoastal is pretty easy to follow just in itself, but there are certain areas. One that comes to mind is the Santee River Delta, where you have to do some paddling upriver and navigating through some channels to get back into the Intercoastal. But yeah, my Google Maps work the whole way. So even without service, it'll still keep your GPS location. That's probably not the most reliable way to do it, but
I was gonna ask, I know you can sort of download those maps so that they're there just in case your service goes out. Did you do that?
I did not. I could have used like avionics or probably, I don't think All Trails would have that, but I never really felt that I needed to navigate that much because I was just following the channel. There's just a couple areas you need to know to not get off course.
Yeah. And
You
I
were right
like
to
that.
worry about the Waccamaw. There's a famous boat here with two fathers and a bunch of kids coming down the ICW that didn't know what they were doing, ended up in the Waccamaw and ended up dying in Charleston Harbor.
Oh, wow.
They had no idea they were outside of the ICW.
Oh, really? So
And then they called for help and the Coast Guard didn't come. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was
There are-
quite a scandal down here. But it makes the point clear about how easy it is to lose the ICW at the Waccamaw. So you did really well not to let that happen to you. Yeah. Although I think you would have noticed that you weren't in the ICW anymore, as these people did not. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of little channels and offshoots of the Waccamaw when you're going past that Bucksport area. But you can always follow the channel markers there too, which,
Yep.
especially at night, navigating at night, I just paddled towards the next blinking light. Follow the red and green blinky lights and you'll be okay.
Yeah, there were a few of those in the video, right?
Yeah. The one thing I was disappointed about, the GoPro is an amazing piece of equipment, but taking footage at night, as you all could see, it does not gather light very well, which at one part I did capture that shooting star and it was so bright that the GoPro caught it. So it was an impressive meteor, but I need to invest in a camera I can use at night to get some better shots.
Well, about the night, when you were traveling at night, how could you see? How could you not run into the marsh or whatever? How did that go?
I did run into the marsh a few times, but usually there's enough light at night. If you let your eyes get accustomed to it, you can, and especially with the water that reflects the lights from the stars and moon, you can navigate without your lights on, which I did a lot, especially through areas that there weren't any boats.
The only real light you had was that light on your head, or what?
I had a solar light, I had a powerful headlamp, I had 2 headlamps, a flashlight, and some running lights that I put on the back of the boat.
Okay.
But yeah, you'd be surprised. It wasn't hard to really follow the channel at night. But there were areas where it's pitch black and I'd turn my light on and I'm faced right into shore and, I beached the boat for a moment.
I do know from all my years canoeing on rivers and camping that, there's certain sounds at night too. Did you use sound to help you navigate at all, or?
No, I never even thought about that. I didn't. I was mainly listening to podcasts or music.
Okay.
Honestly.
So much for nature. Yeah.
So, well, there was a lot of areas where I didn't, but you have to understand you're doing hundreds of hours at an average of 1 mile per hour. So you have a lot of time to think, reflect. And yeah, I spent many hours just listening to everything, but you also need some kind of entertainment to get you by. That was the hardest part of the trip, was being able to go that slow for long periods of time. We're so used to being able to get on an airplane and fly to California in 4 hours. And when you know you have 5 miles to get somewhere, but it's going to take you 10 or 12 hours to get there, you have to wrap your head around that and mentally prepare yourself to be able to go that slow without going crazy.
For me, is the best time spent.
What's
Period.
that?
I said, for me, that's the best time spent, period.
It is. And it's, you know, a lot of people don't like being alone with themselves or their own thoughts, and few people actually do. And so that was one of the nicest parts of the trip, is being able to just slow down and enjoy what was going on.
So a couple more questions. One is, would you do it again?
Not that stretch.
Why?
Before going in, I was really concerned about the stretch from Little River to Sakasti or Bucksport. It's about a 36-mile stretch. And if you look at the map, the intercoastal comes pretty far inland there, and it's all residential and it really narrows. So there's not much to see in the way of nature, and the tides take forever to change. So I would spend 10, 12 hours fighting an incoming tide, when normally it should be switching every 6 or so. So that part was brutal. I would definitely do the other stretch south of Charleston down into Georgia to Savannah. Looks really cool. There's a stretch in Florida that would be really cool. The Indian River, Mosquito Lagoon, and Cape Canaveral area, but not that stretch. No.
Okay.
My next trip will be on a river, long distance on a river where the current's moving in the same direction.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
We've been on the Green River and the Colorado River, and they're pretty smooth.
Yeah. I don't have much experience whitewater rafting or anything like that, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, there's long stretches of those rivers that aren't whitewater.
Yeah, right. Correct. So yeah, I'll be definitely, hopefully this spring, doing some more things like you saw tonight, and posting it on the YouTube channel.
All right. So someone said, what's your next trip?
That's a good question. I really want to do Cape Sable in the Everglades to Key West, go across the Gulf of Florida and just island hop. There's a cool kayak trail through the Everglades to Cape Sable, and then Cape Sable to Key West is about 90 miles. And you can hop around on the islands there, do some fishing, and kind of take an easy trip, and then have somebody pick me up in Key West, maybe spend a few nights on Duval Street.
Ben Mack, he showed some slides in our January meeting down there somewhere in that zone.
It's a really pretty area.
Back to you too.
Yeah, especially if you are into fishing and things like that.
He took a fishing rod.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so I see Laura posted my YouTube. Anything else that gets posted, or if you had trouble with the sound on these videos, they'll be up on that channel. You can also look at the other stuff I've posted on there, and please subscribe.
This is great. And Mike, we just want to thank you. This was a lot of fun tonight.
I had a great time.
We
Thank you
really
all so
appreciate.
much.
Yeah, lots of hands clapping.
Awesome.
Yep.
Glad everyone enjoyed it.
So any closing thoughts or?
Yeah, slow down, enjoy life. Time is the only thing that's really irreplaceable. So quit moving so fast, live in the moment, and enjoy the time you have.
Well,
That's all I got.
thank you so much. Those are valuable words, and we all need to keep them in mind and keep getting out into nature and enjoying it, and just loving those little frogs that come along.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
following you guys. And hopefully I can become a member. I spent a lot of time in Charleston.
Well, great. Yeah, we'd love to have you along and really appreciate seeing you tonight and hearing your stories. And thank you everyone for coming tonight and all your good questions. And, get out there, enjoy the wild.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.